No, you. Hi, so good to see you.
Okay, because it's so close to you.
Every day we can say that as well.
Yeah, I saw that. No, we can't. Oh, that's right.
Wait, are we doing this? I'm very serious.
I need it.
I'll do that.
Upbeat kind of thing. That's why I took this view.
Okay. That's why I'm doing this too. But this are in people's way. I put this on the stairs.
Something major changed in your life or the world or something. We should go up at the same time.
For what?
Because we're both in the jail.
Sure.
And that way we can just
Breeze through it.
breathe through it.
You got it. No, he's here. We just we talked about the addition of adding women into the school.
And you were supposed to ask
How? We're gonna ask about. But at least we made it in.
really
Yeah, he's
ability to understand.
it's about how, you know, being the discomfort of
Yeah.
we made it in. It was interesting because it was all the men sitting around talking to us and Rabbi, and I was just sitting there listening. We were both like, hey, I guess the women don't have an opinion on this.
I mean, they because we had
I used to think that, oh, we needed to
survey that
stand up. Remember, that was my plan to do. Yeah.
I guess
That's not me. No, my plan is that you can
doing political debate, political debating. I don't remember.
You know what? I'm just going to take the win every time. I miss it. I just want to find as good as it's the same. That's kind of been my motto. And I still have that kind of writing spirit, which is why where do you think that came from?
What made you
So I'm very happy to just made it to that.
although I guess if we really wanted to fight,
I would rather have stronger, more confidence.
Shabbat Shalom. I feel like we have more people on the Bima than in the congregation tonight, but I hope you'll enjoy. Welcome to the Women of Shir Shalom Shabbat service. While I was trying to come up with the topic for this year's service, I wound up getting inspired by our Barbie Purim spiel, because as we talked about different women in the spiel, I realized that this year is the 50th anniversary of the ordination of Rabbi Sandy Eisenberg Sasso, who was the second female rabbi in the U.S., who was ordained by the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College in 1974. And at the same time, I got an email from the Reconstructionist movement that the leader of the movement, Dr. Deborah Waxman, it was the 10th anniversary of her leadership, and I realized there were a lot of anniversaries of women leaders this year, and that it might be a nice occasion to talk about Jewish women leaders. So we have some from the larger Jewish community, some from our synagogues, and that's what we'll be talking about. There was a service in the honor of Rabbi Waxman talking about when women lead, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. And although we have celebrated Jewish women in a lot of different ways over the years, this service will focus specifically on women who have served as leaders in the Jewish community. And like I said, you'll hear about women from across the country, from locally. Many of these women were firsts at something, the first rabbi, the first cantor, and so on. And we will start with candle lighting on page 120. I think I better sneak back through this way so I don't fall off the
Bless us with Shabbat joy. May God bless us with Shabbat holiness. May God bless us with Shabbat peace.
Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, v'ahava u'ratzon, infilanu. Zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom tehillah lemikra'e kodesh, zecher nesiat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'acharta, v'yotanu kidasha,
When more women are employed to lead, everyone benefits. Decades of studies show women leaders help increase productivity, enhance collaboration, inspire organizational dedication, and improveness. Despite these benefits, only 10% of Fortune 500 companies are led by women. In 2021, only 27% of rabbis were women.
Determined to bring their perspectives as American and Jewish women to bear upon American Judaism, many women rabbis have sharply critiqued Judaism's marginalization of women's religious activities. They have sought to mark the major milestones of women's biological lives and created rituals to celebrate a positive pregnancy test, grieve a miscarriage, and welcome a daughter to the Jewish people. Some female rabbis became leaders in the new Jewish healing movement, others in Jewish environmentalism.
We're going to begin by singing Lecha Dodi, page 138. We're going to do the first verse and the last. Please join in. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabala. Lecha Dodi lekrakala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. kala. Lecha dodi likra kala. Pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likra kala. Pene Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom el bala. Gam nisimcha u'v'tzaya ha'melocha. Togem nuneam kala. Boi hala.
And greet each other.
Lecha dodi likra kala. Pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likra kala. Pene Shabbat nekabela.
Please turn to page 146 for the call to worship the Baruch Hu, and stand up if you are able to, after which you may be seated. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, Le'olam Va'ed.
And you can be seated. We have some readings in between, so it'd be a long time to be standing.
Yes. I'm going to tell you about Sally Prisan. She was the first female rabbi in the United States. Sally Prisan was born in June 27, 1946, in Cleveland, Ohio. As a teenager at Beth Israel West Temple, a Reform congregation on Cleveland West Side, she began to display an intense commitment to Judaism and Jewish life. She set her sights on becoming a rabbi. This was long before an emerging women's movement raised anew the call for women's access to traditionally male professions. In 1968, she was admitted to the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, HUC-JIR, rabbinical class of 1972.
As Sally Prisan sought student pulpits and performed fieldwork in congregations unable to hire full-time rabbis, she discovered that many synagogues refused to even interview her, claiming they could not possibly hire a woman rabbi. Experiences in multiple pulpits conveyed what she would soon describe as the unbelievable and almost unbearable pressures of being the first woman rabbi. Media attention swelled as she approached ordination, with headlines like, "Girl sets her goal to be first woman rabbi."
When ordained on June 3, 1972, Rabbi Prisan became the first woman ordained by a rabbinical seminary. Even as her experience grew, congregations continued to hire her as a part-time rabbi and would not promote her to a senior rabbi position. She found temple boards using her gender as an excuse to not hire her, and she briefly contemplated leaving the rabbinate. In 1981, Rabbi Prisan finally found the pulpit and community that she had long sought. Together, Prisan and her Monmouth, New Jersey congregants forged a creative partnership guided by her conviction that a rabbi's primary task is to help Jews take responsibility for their own Judaism. Outside the congregation, Prisan worked with the Reform Movement's Central Conference of American Rabbis Task Force on women and in the rabbinate to try to smooth the way for the women that followed her.
This year is the 50th anniversary of Sandy Eisenberg Sasso's ordination. Rabbi Sasso was born in 1947 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. In her youth, she was very involved in her Philadelphia Reform congregation and began to consider entering the rabbinate at 16 years old, though she knew that such a role had never been open to women. During this period, she studied at Gratz College. In the fall of 1969, Sasso joined the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College's second class of rabbinical students. At one point, she wanted to study Jewish women in history and was told it wasn't a serious enough topic. While in school, Sandy Eisenberg married her classmate, Dennis Sasso, making them the first rabbinical couple in Jewish history.
Throughout her career, Rabbi Sasso fought for more equality for women in Judaism. She pushed for changes in the marriage ceremony to ensure that women were not just the property and servers of men, and she criticized the fact that Jewish art showed only men praying or studying. After her ordination, Sasso served as rabbi of the Manhattan Reconstructionist congregation. In 1977, she and her husband were hired to serve as the rabbis of Beth El Zedek in Indianapolis, which is identified both with the conservative and Reconstructionist movements. She thus became the first woman to serve as in a conservative congregation and the first woman to serve as rabbi in partnership with her husband at the same congregation. Now retired, Rabbi Sasso has written children's books about Jewish topics, including some books about little recognized women in Jewish history.
The Shema is on page 152. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
The Via Hafta is on page 154. If you'd like to join me. Via Hafta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol lavaka uv'chol nafshecha uv'kol miodecha, v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele, asher anohi mizavaka hayom al levarecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtika v'vetecha, uv'lektecha v'adir, u'shakbaka uv'kumecha, u'kshartam ayalot al yadecha, v'hayu latotafot Bein Einecha, Ukhavtam al mimizot beiteka uvish arecha, Lema'an tizkaru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'hitem kidoshim le'elohechem, Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hosetiechem me'eretz Mitzrayim, lichayot lachem le'elohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem.
So this song is about Miriam, Moses' sister. Miriam is the first and arguably only woman leader mentioned in the Torah. She is best known for helping to deliver Moses at the Nile River and for leading the Hebrew women in singing, dancing, and playing drums after crossing the Red Sea. Tonight, instead of the Micha Mocha, we're going to sing Miriam's song.
And the words are in your leaflet.
Oh, good.
Which has a place for it.
So you can certainly all join me on the chorus, because I think probably most of you know it. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam was a weaver of unique variety. The tapestry she wove was one which sang our history. With every strand and every thread she crafted her delight. A woman touched with spirit, she dances towards the light. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam stood upon the shores and gazed across the sea. The wonder of this miracle she soon came to believe. Whoever thought the sea would part with an outstretched hand, and we would pass to freedom and march to the promised land. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam the prophet took her timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice in song, she sang with praise and might. We've just lived through a miracle, we're going to dance tonight. Last time. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long.
And there's my leaflet that I couldn't find. So next is the Amidah, and we're going to do it silently tonight, but you have some options. You can do the traditional Amidah in the prayer book, which starts on page 164. And we also included in the leaflet a women's Amidah, an alternative one. So if you want to kind of honor women tonight, you can read through this one to yourself instead. And they speak about the women matriarchs in our history and various other women-related things. So please rise for the Amidah, if that's your custom, and have a seat when you're finished. So in lieu of a standard official Dvar Torah, we're going to have more readings because we had so many women we wanted to talk about tonight that if we had a Dvar on top of that, we would have been here all night. And probably some people want to get to the Onik eventually. So Jackie is up next.
Rabbi Deborah Waxman is the president of the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College and CEO of the Reconstructing Judaism movement. Waxman was inaugurated as the president of both on October 26, 2014. She is believed to be the first woman rabbi and the first lesbian to lead a Jewish congregational movement and the first lesbian to lead a Jewish seminary. Forward named her as one of the Forward 50 in 2015. Rabbi Waxman completed a PhD in American Jewish History at Temple University and earned a certificate in Jewish Women's Studies from RRC in conjunction with Temple University.
As leader of the Reconstructionist movement, she has worked to increase the visibility of this small movement by participating in meetings of larger Jewish and religious organizations around the country and putting forth statements and policies on topics important in modern culture. She has also worked with others in the movement's leadership to maintain the participation of congregations and congregants, as this is a key aspect of the Reconstructionist movement.
Barbara Osfeld, the first woman cantor and cantor of Temple Beth Am, 1990 to 2002. Barbara Jean Osfeld was born in 1952 in St. Louis, Missouri, and grew up in Elmhurst, Illinois. Beginning when she was very young, Osfeld loved to sing. Osfeld decided to become a cantor at age 8 because participating in prayer made her feel like she was part of something important and because her congregation's emphasis on civil rights was significant to her family.
In 1969, at age 17, Osfeld called the Register of Hebrew Union College, a Jewish Institute Religion, HUCJR, in New York City, to ask for application to School of Sacred Music. The Register informed her that no woman had made such a request before, but ultimately sent her an application. She was admitted in 1970, where she began the cantoral program, then open to undergraduates. She was the only woman among 22 students, most of them who were in their 20s. People often thought she had entered that all-male program in order to find a husband. The school's repertory was designed for men's voices, and she was at first told to lip sync during chorus performances so not to adulterate the all-male choral sound.
Cantor Osfeld was ordained in June 6, 1975 at Temple Emmanuel in New York City. After serving several other congregations, she came to Temple Beth Am in 1990. Over the course of her career, Osfeld tutored approximately 1,500 B'nai Mitzvah students. In addition, she taught courses often focusing on feminist themes for a number of years at the Buffalo High School for Jewish Studies under the auspices of the Bureau for Jewish Education.
Marlene Glickman was the first female president of Temple Beth Am. She was born in May 1936. She majored in music at Ohio State University in Columbus. She then got a paid position singing in the Temple Israel Choir, where she met her husband, Marshall Glickman, and they began to raise a family. They moved the family to Buffalo in 1961. Mrs. Glickman had to take care of the children and develop a life for herself, while her husband traveled a great deal for business. Instead of joining Temple Beth Zion, where much of their family was well established, they met some nice people at the small, newly formed Temple Beth Am. The Glickmans quickly joined the choir.
Marlene emerged as a leader. Starting in the early 70s, she was always at Temple. She was made the president of Sisterhood and was also a board member of the Temple. From being the president of the Sisterhood, she was made the first female president of the Temple, a big thing in the 1970s. Through the years, she also led the boards of many local nonprofit organizations, including the American Jewish Committee, the Network of Religious Communities, Meals on Wheels, Jewish Federation, Super Sunday, and many others. In addition, she led the beautification subcommittee during our merger talks as we became Congregation Shir Shalom, helping to decide how to display artwork from the two merged congregations throughout the building. And thank you to Joe Glickman for sharing memories of his mother with us.
Esther Bates was a female president of Temple Sinai, as well as active on the Reconstructionist Federation Board. Ruth Goldman was the first female president of Temple Sinai, but Temple Sinai was so forward-thinking that this occurred in the 1960s, and there was no one who could really tell us much about her. Esther was born in 1926 in Munich, Germany. Although her family was not particularly observant, they occasionally attended a sort of Havurah group, and they did celebrate the Jewish holidays. In 1937, as the situation for German Jews deteriorated, she moved to the U.S. A relative offered to pay for her college tuition, and she went to Cornell University. There she met Marty, who eventually became her husband of over 60 years. Prior to their marriage, Esther worked for her room and board. She lived with and worked for a rabbi and his wife doing childcare and light housework. This rabbi introduced her to the writings of Mordecai Kaplan and the ideas of Reconstructionist Judaism.
Esther and Marty eventually moved to the Buffalo area. Esther taught in nursery schools at several synagogues, and her oldest child was able to attend the Jewish nursery school while she worked. As their children got older, Esther and Marty met Rabbi Nathan Gaynor, the charming young rabbi of the newly established Reconstructionist Temple Sinai. They joined that congregation soon after their youngest child was born. Their oldest son started Hebrew school, and Esther and Marty became increasingly active in the congregation.
Esther became president of the congregation and was one of the only presidents who continued to use her ex officio status as a past president to attend every board meeting until Temple Sinai merged with Temple Beth Am to form congregation Shir Shalom. She always had her knitting with her, and she got a lot of knitting done all those meetings. She was also active in the Temple Sinai Women's Group, was on the national board of the Reconstructionist Federation, and edited the Temple newsletter for 19 years. She and Marty were also interested in archaeology and participated in archaeological digs in Israel. That interest led them to become founding members and active participants in our local biblical archaeological group. And Esther was the program chair and newsletter editor of that for many years.
And last but not least, Jill Hamilton is the first female president of Congregation Shir Shalom. Congregation Shir Shalom is the first purposefully merged Reform and Reconstructionist congregation in which both affiliations are maintained, and Jill is one of the people who is responsible for that joint affiliation. Jill has been involved with leadership as a volunteer who did this in addition to her position as a psychologist, working primarily with people with developmental disabilities. She first got involved with synagogue leadership when she attended a Temple Sinai women's group event and was asked to write a monthly paragraph about the women's group for the Temple newsletter. That's how they get you. Never do that first thing. As a result, Jill began attending women's group meetings in order to write the articles, then became a co-president of the women's group with Ellen Silver, and finally became president of the women's group. In 2010, she became president of Temple Sinai, and shortly after that was approached by Todd Sugarman about a possible merger or collaboration. A lot of time and energy went into the merger discussion with committees, and subcommittees. After about 15 months of weekly and sometimes twice weekly talks, it was time to draft a merger agreement. The next step was to conduct town hall meetings, and then 9, not 2, not 3, 9 focus groups that were conducted over a 3-week period in order so that every member of Temple Sinai could have the opportunity to ask questions and make suggestions. Since Jill was in charge, she attended every focus group herself and reminded me that for some crazy reason, I attended them too. Everyone's questions and concerns were answered and suggestions were taken.
As the merger got closer, there were emergency meetings to iron out last-minute issues, and Jill spent part of her 50th birthday party on the phone scheduling one of these emergency meetings. Eventually, the merger was passed by both congregations with an overwhelming show of support, and we officially became Congregation Shir Shalom on July 1st, 2012. The merger agreement stated that in the first year, Todd would be president and Jill would be vice president of administration, and in the second year, they would switch roles. Jill was president of Congregation Shir Shalom from 2013 to 2014. She continues to be our representative to the Reconstructing Judaism movement and the VP of Worship and Education for the Women of Shir Shalom.
Please open your books to page 370 for the Mishbarach prayer, but first I'm going to read the names of those on the list, if I can find it. Do we have the Mishbarach list? The other one, could someone get that for me? Is it hiding? That's the yard site and Shloshim. Yeah, you got it. Okay, very good. Okay, so we'd like to say a healing prayer for the following people. Dan Abels, Andrea Adler, John Binder, Alan and Karen Cooper, Joe Dinky, Gloria Fine, Sue Frank, Barbara Frieda, Marianne Friedman, Carolyn and Ernie Grosser, Dejan Haman, Hillary Kerman, Maya Ruth Corin Matlock, Jim Kiles, Miles Levy, Gail Lewis, Jenna Metzer, Aaron Nevler, Judy Osowitz, Shannon Perry, Marty Ralabate, Dwight Reed, Cheryl Rossi, Beverly Rovner, Brandon Ryan, Gail Willick-Smith, Enav Simons, Rex Tarman, Mike Wheeler, Matt Willard. Also, Ariel Leah Bar-Chava, Yosef Ben Zissel, Shmuel Ben Miriam, Hinda Sarah bat Rochel, Shoshana bat Liba, Hanan Ezra ben Shuel, Chana Leah bat Abraham Sarah, Liba bat Rachel, Shoshana bat Liba. If there's anyone you'd like to say the Mishabera prayer, please raise your hand and say their name.
Marshall Friedman, and all the Israeli soldiers that have been injured in this war.
Okay.
Sharon Walker and Sandy Elkins. Anita Klinger, Jill Klinger, and Lisa Klinger-Cantor.
Anyone else here?
Batami, Batshulami, and Skelton.
Anyone here?
Faith Dwyer and Megan Nowicki.
Nick Tepper, Roy Post, and Dana Houghton.
Lil Ducat.
Sheila Chato. Okay. Please join me in singing the Mishabera prayer, page 370. Mishaberak avotenu mechor chabracha limotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberak imotenu mechor habraha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Naomi, would you come up for the ark, please?
And turn to
Page 587.
586, thank you. 586 for the Elenu. 587, sorry. Okay. This may be a little confusing because Linda's going to do the traditional version and I'm going to do the Reconstructionist version. But we will manage. Let me just find the page. There we go. No. Ready? Oh, I'm in the 400s. That's why I don't see it. Huh. Too many things to remember tonight. Okay, there we go. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teikut l'yotzer breshit, shelo sachanu
nishbachot ha'adama, shelo sachelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam. Anachnu korim u'mishtachvim u'modim lifnei Melech Malkei Hamlakim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Page 591.
V'ne'emar v'chaya Adonai lemelech al kol ha'aretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
You may be seated. And I want to apologize to Naomi. Her name was not in the program because I wasn't sure if she would be here. But I did have on my list, I wanted her to come up if she was here.
Yes. Okay, today in memoriam, Shiva James Bukowski, husband of Lynn Crone Bukowski, father of Adam Bukowski. Shelashim Judith Brody, wife of the late Philip Brody, mother of Ann, Jim, Ricketts, and Bruce, Pamela Brody. Gersh Breutman, Rose Haber, Renee Joffe, wife of the late Boris Joffe, mother of Serge Elaine Allen, Susan and Muriel Joffe. Eleanor Morley, mother of Roberta Paul Bluestein. Yatri, Lois Block, Julius Brodsky, Doris Lenobi Brody, Bernard Brown, Abraham Cohn, Shirley Colbert, Miriam Corus, Elizabeth P. Eisner, John Fetter, Mona Fader, Zelda Feldman, Eve Lynn Glory Fertig, Nathan Feugelman, Marilyn Frank, Ethel Gerstel, Larry A. Glasser, Judith S. Goldberg, Anna Gottman, Julia Canner, Suzanne Kester, Ida Lawrence, Lois Levenberg, Louis Logvin, Samuel Moscato, Elaine Olin, Harry Permuter, Charles Rakes, John Schlierlitz, Martha Schneider, Richard Seitz, Samuel Schleppian, Maury Sugar, Shamil Trieger, Saul Wapnick, Ray Weiner, and Estelle Weitzner. Anyone whose custom is to rise, please rise.
Are there any other names that you want us to remember?
Any other names? Okay. Yitkadal, V'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, the Alma Difra Yordete Malkutam Shirata, Tushbahata, Visnipinha, Demiran, Bialana, Amen. Israel, Bimaru, Amen. Say Shalom, Bimrama, Say Shalom, Aleinu, Alkol Israel, Bimaru, Amen. May their memories be a blessing.
Shabbat Shalom. We hope you enjoyed our very special Sisterhood Shabbat this evening. Very special thank you to Jill Hamilton for creating the service, and it's truly an honor to be sharing this and participating together for the very special group of women. Thank you to Kirsty and Kennedy Henry for being our service greeters this evening, and thank you again to the women of Shir Shalom for such an inspiring service in honor of Shabbat. There is no Torah study this week. We will be joining Temple Beth Tzedek on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. for their Shabbat morning service and installation of Rabbi Sarah Rich. Rabbi Alex's intro to Shir Shalom Friday night services will resume when he returns from Panama. And all this month, our Tikkun alum team is continuing to collect non-perishable food for Tiger's Den Food Pantry. If you've made a donation, thank you, and if you haven't, there's still time. There's collection bins in our main entrance and the entrance of our community religious school. Pickleball is done for the season. It will return in the fall, and thank you again to Todd Sugarman for sponsoring our pickleball courts. And for all the people that helped lead and teach and open and close the building, we appreciate it. Shabbatas will be back on Wednesday, May 22nd from 4 to 7 p.m. You can pre-order on our website and save $1. We'll see you in the drive-through line, but just want to repeat again, it's on a Wednesday, which is out of our schedule, but that's when Shabbatas was available. Would like to thank Gunilla Kester for a wonderful Buffalo Corner reading series last night. It was very special, and they will return in September. Our annual congregational meeting will take place on Sunday, May 19th at 7. Come and hear our annual reports, nominations for the board, and President's Award, and more. Save the date. Our last Jews of All Hues will be on Friday, June 7th at 7 p.m. and will feature Israel. The service will be co-led by Rabbi Alex and Cantor Frank with guest speaker Dr. Andy Simons and accompanist Ivan Dochenko. The Oneg Shabbat will feature Israeli dancing with Dorothy Lewis and our very own Linda Bergman. And Israeli foods will be catered by the Bloom and Rose, and an auction will benefit the families of the hostages. This event is sponsored by Michael Berger, and we hope you will join us. If you need anything, please feel free to reach out to Rabbi Alex, Cantor Frank, Todd, Bruce, or myself. We're here for you. And please join us for our Oneg Shabbat, which is sponsored by the Women of Shir Shalom and the Men's Group in honor of Sisterhood Shabbat. And we also are celebrating in Mazel Tov to Julia and Chris Cohan and Steve and Hillary Hurwitz in honor of their 50th wedding anniversaries that is on the same day.
And we have certificates for them. So we're going to present that to you guys. And Joanne, I think, found some wonderful certificates for you. So here, I'll give this one to you.
So Mazel Tov. If you'd like to sponsor an Oneg for an occasion or no occasion at all, please let me know. Shabbat Shalom. And we'd like to call up Jill Hamilton for special thanks for your creativity and dedication to our Women of Shir Shalom. Thank you for continuing this wonderful tradition.
Thank you.
I want to say Mazel Tov again to Stephen Hillary and Julia and Chris. Was there anything else planned for it? Okay. Okay. All right, so Sheila's up next and then Cantor. Thank you for the beautiful flowers.
They smell good. When Jewish women lead, wisdom is activated. Women rabbis who have touched countless lives across the world, sharing a forward-looking approach to Judaism rooted in tradition. Community is nurtured. Women offer a unique concept of belonging. Inclusion is centered. We are committed to expanding access to the vibrant Jewish community. Innovation is cultivated. We inspire new perspectives on Jewish engagement and community. Resilience is strengthened. We pioneer ideas and programs to help people find hope in the face of challenges. Inspiration is accelerated.
I just want to mention that on the Wednesday before the Jews of All Hues, which is the next one, which is on June 7th, on that June 5th, we're having some practice Israeli dancing with Dorothy and Linda to prepare to look extra special and to help other people on June 7th. So if you'd like to, there will be a flyer that'll be out very shortly. So that should be a lot of fun. As we turn to page 647, on the bottom of the page, we will sing our final hymn, written by Rabbi Shefa Gold, the melody. and it is directly from Torah. Ozi v'zimrat ya vayihili lishua. Adonai is my strength and might. God will be my salvation. And it's a beautiful type of melody that we could harmonize with. Okay, we'll just throw out some harmonies, those that are gifted in that area. And also it could be done as a round too. So when you feel like weaving yourself in and out, but please just try to join in. Ozi v'zimrat ya vayili lishua. Ozi v'zimrat ya vayili lishua. Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. As you came in peace, may you go in peace. Shabbat shalom.